What if all volcanoes erupted at once? Let's imagine that every volcano on Earth, yes, all of them, decides to erupt at exactly the same instant. From the towering stratovolcanoes of the Andes to the tiny, mostly ignored cinder cones of rural Mexico, they all go off together. And just to make sure we don't cheat, this includes every submarine volcano hidden under the oceans, plus the odd ones under glaciers in Iceland, plus that one in Rome people keep insisting is probably extinct. At first glance, this scenario sounds like the ultimate Hollywood disaster movie. Fire fountains in every direction, apocalyptic skies, a Michael Bay soundtrack playing faintly in the background. But what would actually happen? For one thing, a lot of people would be surprised. Most volcanoes are in places that aren't very well populated, mid-ocean ridges, for example, or Antarctica. If you were standing on the streets of London, Beijing, or Buenos Aires, you wouldn't see lava bursting from the sidewalk like a cracked fire hydrant. Instead, your first clue would be the news headlines. Also, the internet would immediately stop working because no cable news anchor could resist screaming, "Global Volcano Day!" But let's talk numbers. Earth has roughly 1,500 volcanoes that we know about on land and at least 1 million on the seafloor. Yes, 1 million! Fortunately, most of them are small fry. The combined volume of lava, if they all erupted at once, sounds catastrophic, but compared to the size of the planet, it's a rounding error. Even if every active volcano released its typical annual output in a single day, the total lava would cover the world's land in a layer about the thickness of a single sheet of paper, which is inconvenient if you're trying to write a grocery list on it, but not the end of civilization. The real danger isn't lava. Lava is slow, polite, and predictable. You can usually outwalk it unless you've made the poor decision to wear flip-flops. The real threat is the gas and ash. Imagine hundreds of Mount St. Helens worth of ash clouds pumped into the sky at once. Visibility around the globe would collapse. Air travel? Forget it. Within minutes, every plane in the sky would be diverting desperately to land. Within hours, all airports would be shut. Somewhere in the chaos, at least one poor tourist would end up stranded forever in the duty-free section of Charles de Gaulle Airport. The stratosphere would fill with sulfur dioxide, which combines with water to form tiny droplets that reflect sunlight. That's what happened in 1815 when Mount Tambora erupted, causing the year without a summer. Crops failed, snow fell in June, and people had to invent bicycles because horses were too expensive to feed. Now, multiply that effect not by 2, not by 10, but by hundreds. For a few years, Earth would look like it was experimenting with a permanent Instagram gloom filter. Temperatures would plummet worldwide, harvests would collapse, famine would spread, your local grocery store would run out of food in days, and no, the frozen pizza in your neighbor's chest freezer won't save you because the power grid is down thanks to all those ash particles shorting out substations. Meanwhile, acid rain would peel the paint off cars, strip forests bare, and leave statues looking like they've been crying for a century straight. In coastal areas, things get more interesting. Underwater volcanoes would belch out steam explosions, heating massive swaths of ocean. This wouldn't boil the seas, it would barely warm them, but it would release gigantic quantities of water vapor, itself a greenhouse gas. So ironically, while the ash and aerosols try to freeze the world, the extra vapor tries to warm it. The climate system, confused, would do both things badly. Expect freezing mornings and tropical afternoons, often on the same day. Weather forecasters would give up entirely and just start reading horoscopes. Human society would not handle this well. Cities near volcanoes, like Naples, Quito, and Tokyo, would be devastated immediately. Others would collapse more slowly under the weight of hunger, disease, and the realization that stockpiling instant noodles is not actually a long-term survival strategy. Yet Earth itself would hardly notice. Even if all volcanoes erupted together, It wouldn't split the planet open or set the atmosphere on fire. In geological terms, it would be a busy weekend. The crust would grumble, release some gases, and then go back to business. Within a few decades, the climate would stabilize. Forests would regrow. The planet has endured far worse: supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, continental breakups, and shrugged them off. So, what if all volcanoes erupted at once? For humans, it would mean years of chaos, famine, and quite possibly the end of global civilization. For Earth, it would mean nothing more than an odd entry in its geological diary.